we'll call the meeting of the Newark City Council Finance Committee meeting to order. It's 5:30. Members present are Mr. Bubb, myself, Mrs. Floyd, Mr. Marvin, and Mr. Guthrie is sitting in for Mr. Cost. And Mrs. Floyd, would you like to offer a few comments about Mr. Cost?
Yeah, I just want people to know, I know some of you have heard lots of stories, and I've talked to some of you individually. I think most of you know Bill's grandson, 22-month-old grandson, went into a pond on Friday. He's at Children's, and at this point, not doing well. I don't know details. Bill didn't say that. I've talked to him several times. And then his wife had a heart issue on Saturday, and it turns out, I think, that she had had a heart attack probably 2 weeks ago. She has a clot and a blockage, and she has pneumonia in addition to that. Last I heard, she is having surgery tomorrow to either put in a stent, do a balloon, or do bypass surgery. So I don't know where all this is going to go, but I just would like you all to put him in your thoughts and prayers. And if you wouldn't mind, if right now you bow your heads, please, and we'll say a prayer. Almighty God, this is a very difficult time for us here, but so much more so for Bill and for Karen Cost and for their daughter Karen and her family. There is a 22-month-old boy who is in very serious condition, and Karen has enough health problems. Bill is going from hospital to hospital and always feels he's in the wrong place. I just wish that you would be with them. Be with them, give them your strength, have your hand over them as they go through this very, very difficult time. We ask your blessings on them, on the entire family, on all their friends and relatives, and we ask that you be with them throughout this very, very difficult time. We ask this in your name. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Just want to welcome everyone once again to the Finance Committee meeting. We do have 4 items on our agenda this evening. I'll read the titles of the pieces of legislation, then we'll have the administrator speak, and then if there's questions or comments from the audience, please come to the podium so that we can get correct minutes, and also for the Licking County Computer Society. The first item on our agenda is to consider resolution number 1429, authorizing and directing the mayor of the city of Newark to prepare and submit an application to the Ohio Development Services Agency for a Community Housing Impact and Preservation Program Grant Award for federal fiscal year 2014. Ms. Gilks, thank you for coming.
You're welcome. The Department of Development was notified by the state of Ohio that we are eligible to apply for a CHIP grant, and we will be submitting that on D-Day, June 6th. On Wednesday, April 16th at 3, we will be having a meeting of the Housing Advisory Committee to review our options under this grant. It also serves as the first public hearing. So we will be reviewing. Some of our choices are owner rehabilitation, rental rehabilitation, homeowner ownership assistance, as well as administrative costs and fair housing costs. That's what comprises our choices for the CHIP.
Can you repeat the date and time of that meeting, please?
It is Wednesday, April 16th at 3 p.m. here in Council Chamber.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee?
I'll make a motion.
A motion by Mrs. Floyd.
Second.
Second, Mr. Bowes. Any further comments or questions from the committee? From the audience? Questions or comments? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is moved on to full council. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our second piece of legislation is to consider resolution number 1430, authorizing and directing the mayor of the city of Newark to submit an application to the Ohio Department of Public Safety Office for fiscal year 2015 Ohio Traffic Safety Grant Program. Ms. Gillis.
The chief of police will be notified very soon, if he hasn't already, may have been notified at the end of last week, that we are eligible for a traffic grant this year. They base the grant on, unfortunately, the number of fatalities and who qualify. So the grant will run from October 1st, 2014 through September 30th, 2015, and it will be a reimbursement grant for overtime in some high-risk areas of the city. We've had these grants in the past.
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Bub,
Second.
second Mrs. Floyd. Questions or comments from the committee? Questions, comments from the audience? All in favor to move this to full council, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Gills. Our third piece of legislation is to consider resolution number 1431, appropriating monies for the current expenses of the municipal corporation. There are 3 sections to this piece of legislation, and who's going to speak on the transfer?
On section 3?
1 and 2 deal with the $20,000.
Mr. Chair, we need to get $20,000 out of the rainy day fund and move it over into professional services.
Any other questions of Mr. Guthrie?
Mike, can you tell us how that exactly will be used?
Well, currently, this is a year of contracts, so we're using it for contracts.
And have, Mr. Chairman, Ms. Westbrook, have we already paid X number of dollars so far?
Yes, we have. We were asked earlier in the year when I came in initially, or maybe it was late last year, to do it in, like parcel and parts, to give the council the opportunity to respond, I guess.
Can I just ask one more question? Mr. Chairman, Ms. Westbrook, what would be the reason that these funds were not budgeted for 2014? Just that you didn't anticipate going this far with
Really didn't have any idea we'd go this far, no, sir.
And for Mr. Marley?
Yes. Do you have the documentation that the law director that we require as far as making sure?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Could I get a copy of that, please?
Absolutely. I can go have it for you this evening before you leave.
Either then, or if you want to email it to me, however.
Okay.
Put it in my box.
Any further questions of the committee?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bowe, second Mrs. Floyd, and this is for section 1, correct, Mr. Bowe?
Yes.
Any further questions of the audience? Ms. Loomis, please go forward.
Excuse me, Ms. Meredith. Sorry. Do I state my name? Rhonda Loomis. I'm just curious, since we're pulling out the rainy day fund, if you could give us the balance of the unappropriated funds. Thank you.
Of the general fund,
Yes, sir?
that is, the general fund unappropriated balance is $59.50, but Mr. Johnson can explain about a recertification that's going to happen with the County Budget Commission, so I'll let him explain that here when we get to the next piece. But if you wanted the balance of the budget stabilization fund, is $585,037.64. Ms. Best.
Yeah. Lisa Best. Are we using the same guy that didn't know how many people were on the fire department?
Yes.
Is that a guess?
Yes.
Does he know how many employees?
Ms. Best,
What?
please direct your questions to me, please.
Does he know how many employees he has?
Okay, thank you. We'll let Ms. Best,
And is he worth the money?
thank you. Sir, if you just make a comment to that.
Yes, he does.
Thank you. Any further questions regarding section 1? All in favor of moving to section 1 on to full council, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
4-1. And then section 2 is just additional, it's actually appropriate the fund. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Mr. Bove.
Second.
Second, Mrs. Floyd. Any further comments or questions from the audience? All in favor of moving Section 2 on to full council signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
4-1. Motion moves on to full council.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Section,
Mr. Chairman, is this where you said Mr. Johnson is going to explain that, or?
I was going to have him explain when we get, because we have some actual legislation dealing with the
Okay, that's
general
fine.
fund and the
That's
next
fine.
piece of legislation.
Thank you.
Section 3 is to appropriate funds for computer software for the municipal court clerk and judicial. Judge Stansberry, welcome back.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to appear before the committee. Judge David Stansberry of the Municipal Court. This is just transferring funds from the court's own computerization fund to new computers in the clerk's office, court staff, small claims division, and probation. The computers are about 7 years old. That's about the length that they're expected to last with the software. And the primary motivation in doing it now is that Windows has indicated that they're no longer going to be doing security updates and patches. So in an effort to keep all that juicy information secret, we're going to switch over to new stuff.
Thank you, Judge. Motion by Mr. Marmee. Second, Mrs. Floyd. Questions of the committee? Questions of the audience? And this is, if you expedite, you want the second 2 days?
We do, because the deadline's coming up pretty quickly, and we're already in the process of trying to obtain the materials.
Okay. All in favor of moving this on to full council, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. 5-0. Thank you very much, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Our next piece of legislation is to consider ordinance 1432, appropriating monies for the current expenses of the municipal corporation. There are 6 sections in this piece of legislation. The first one is dealing with $71,700 for the water department. Mr. Loomis.
This is money we want to appropriate out of the water funds for survey and planning work for what we're calling the Tamarack Drive, Tamarack Road transmission lines, part of our master plan from 2002, where we were putting a transmission line from basically the water plant out to the far west end of town for some fire protection and more water supply in that area of town. This is the initial survey and rough design work for this project, which we plan on building in probably 2015 is our plan right now. So.
Thank you, sir. Questions of the committee?
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Bove. I'm sorry, who was that second? Marmee? Any questions from the committee? Questions from the audience? All in favor of moving this on to full council, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. 5-0. Thank you very much. The next piece of legislation is $10,000 that you want to appropriate for the water department. Mr. Lewis?
Yeah, this is some money we're appropriating. We just didn't budget enough for what's called our ELA, which is our licensing agreement for our GIS software. ELA is an enterprise license. It's an enterprise license for our GIS, which allows us to utilize that throughout the whole city, number one, but we can also utilize it for some of our mobile apps and for some of the other GIS or geo-asset programs, some of our other asset management programs. It's a system-wide license that we can get, and it also includes maintenance of the GIS software and upgrades of the GIS software. And so we've been doing this for about 4 years now. We're just short on our budget for this year, so that's what we're asking to appropriate that money for that work.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from the committee?
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Marmee. Second, Mr. Bove. Any other questions? Questions from the audience? All in favor of moving this on full council, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Loomis. Okay. Our next section of this piece of legislation is $5,513.80 for demolition of Manning Street, 425 Manning Street. Ms. Gilks?
Yes, thank you. Manning Street was demolished at the end of 2013. We've received a reimbursement from the Attorney General's office. The money was largely fronted by the Division of Property Maintenance. So the request is to pay back property maintenance for loaning the money for the demolition.
Questions of the committee?
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Bub.
Second.
Second, Ms. Floyd. Any questions, further questions from the committee? Questions from the audience? All those in favor of moving this on to full council, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Section 4 is $17,463.47 AG demo grant. Ms. Gilks.
From what I understand, this is reversed a little. The disappropriation would take first, then the appropriation is the transfer.
You just speak on it at the same time.
Okay.
We'll just have separate votes.
The funding is for Phase 2 of the AG demo grant. We will be reimbursed 100% for the $17,463.47. But it's coming out of capital improvements, then it's transferred into the AG demo grant. Then the third step on the next page is it's put into the account so that it will be on the purchase order, so that when we execute the demolitions, we can pay for the services.
And this is, Mr. Johnson, if you could come forward, and you and I had an exchange earlier today, so if we could just have some public comment on the general fund amount that's there, the recertification that you have to go through to make sure that we're okay with that.
Sure. When we all came into the room tonight, the unappropriated balance of the general fund was, I think, $59.50. The action of the committee tonight changes that. For example, the $5,500 that you just appropriated, we just recently received that, and we have not certified that to the County Budget Commission. In other words, we have not told them that we were receiving that. Once we do that, it becomes unappropriated, so it goes into the unappropriated balance. Then this committee takes action to appropriate it. So it came into the unappropriated balance, went right back out. We've had several instances this year where we've received a donation for something, flowers on the courthouse square. When we certify that to the Budget Commission, that becomes part of the unappropriated balance. We received it for a purpose, so the committee then appropriates it, goes on to council for the formal appropriation, so it goes into the unappropriated balance and comes back out. I think the $20,000 that came out of budget stabilization, since it's coming into the general fund, we have to certify that to the county budget commission because it's new revenue into the general fund. So then the unappropriated balance absorbs that money in, and then you appropriate it, so it goes right back out again. So the unappropriated balance is kind of a liquid thing as things occur. What we need to keep an eye on is money that comes into the city that we certify to the county, we don't appropriate for any purpose, then the unappropriated balance grows. But basically, we've been having in and out things, so he goes up and comes down during the same day. Does that explain it to everybody? And another thing we've dealt with a lot over the years, and Mr. Marbury probably understands this pretty well, some of these things require 3 actions, because it's got to be appropriated to be transferred, and then transferred, and then appropriated again when it arrives at its final destination. It's just bookkeeping things that we have to do. We can't do it without council action.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from the committee?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. So we're still on, is there a motion to move section 4 on to full council?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Marmy.
Second.
Second, Mr. Bub. Any further questions, comments? Ms. Loomis.
To what Mr. Johnson said, basically then, still in the unappropriated balance, we had $59.50.
Correct.
Thank you.
All in favor of moving this on to full council signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Section 4 moves on 5-0. Is there a motion for Section 5?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Martin. Second, Mr. Bub. Questions of the committee? Questions of the audience? All in favor of moving this on to full council signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. 5-0. And Section 6. Is there a motion to Marmy and, well, we'll do Mr. Bub and Marmy. Switch it up a little bit. Any further questions from the committee or from the audience? All in favor of moving this on to full council, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. That concludes our legislation for the Finance Committee. The next committee up is Service.
Okay, we'll call the Service Committee meeting to order. Those present are myself, Bob, Roletta, Blake, and Floyd. First on the agenda, consider Resolution 14-34, authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service to advertise for bids and enter into contracts subject to the appropriation of funds for various construction projects. Up to talk about that is Mr. Moorhead.
Thank you. This is, you've seen a similar piece of legislation in past years. Basically, we're trying to get permission to go to bid with the upcoming projects we have. We have our 2014 street maintenance projects. We have our 2014 concrete maintenance projects, which are basically curb ramps and miscellaneous sidewalk work that goes along with the street resurfacing. We've got a storm sewer project we're in the design phase of on West Church Street and North 30th Street. And we've got a Raccoon Creek bank repair. It's near Whitefield at the north end of Bowers Avenue. And then we also have the new construction of the central station for the Newark fire station. I guess if there's any questions on any of those projects, I'd be glad to try to answer them.
Make a motion.
Motion by Bub,
Second. I do have, Mr. Chair.
seconded by Blake. I'll get to you. Questions from the committee?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Blake.
Mr. Moorhead, I was curious about the list of streets that might be on the projects. You said you had some prepared, but the whole list wasn't complete.
Correct.
You had some that was ready, or that you knew were going to be.
Yeah, we've got, we'll be receiving grant funding through Ohio Public Works, the State Capital Improvement Program. And the streets, we actually submitted this list last October. The streets that are funded at this point are North 21st Street from West Church Street north to, well, it's the bridge that's over Raccoon Creek, just south of the Route 16 interchange there. Walker Street as it intersects North 21st Street. River Road from Thornwood Drive out to Riverbend Drive. Sharon Valley Road from King Road to West Shield Street. East Main Street from Dayton Road east out to the Port Limit. And then Dayton Road from State Route 16 back down to East Main Street. And then West Church Street from 6th Street out to the bridge over Raccoon Creek, which is just west of the YMCA. And then 11th Street from West Main Street north to the ramps, the entrance ramp to State Route 79. 79 and 16. And I can email you a PDF of that list for anybody who likes.
Thank you, sir.
Did you have a question?
No.
Any other questions from the committee members? Any questions from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on back to the next one.
And next on the agenda, consider Resolution 14-35, authorizing and directing the mayor of the city of Newark to prepare and submit an application to the Ohio Department of Transportation for the 2014 Transportation Alternatives Program to partially fund the State Route 13 Streetscape and Bridge Enhancement Project.
Again, this is a piece of legislation that you may have seen something similar in the past. City's been successful in a couple other occasions in getting, back then it was called Transportation Enhancement Funds. Now it's called the Transportation Alternatives Program. But we've actually sent a letter of interest to ODOT, which is the first step in the procedure, to ask for funding to go along with the State Route 13 bridge project that we're planning on in the next couple of years here. And they replied back to our letter of interest, said that we were qualified, and asked us to submit a full application. So that's what we wish to do here. The application is due May 4th, so we want to move this forward, and we'd like to expedite it if at all possible to be able to meet that date. And we are asking for actually two separate pots of funds. $785,000 is what we were requesting to add to the pedestrian portion of the project. And then we also requested $550,000 to go towards the enhancement, the bridge enhancements on the project.
Make a motion.
Motion by Floyd.
Second.
Seconded by Blake. Questions from the committee? Questions from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Seeing no other items for the Service Committee, this committee will adjourn. Up next will be Ways and Means.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock. We'll call this Ways and Means Committee to order. Those present are myself, Ryan Bell, Doug Marmy, Chairman Blake. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to consider Resolution 14-33, authorizing the Clerk of Council to submit to the Licking County Auditor to certify the total current tax valuation of the City of Newark, Ohio, and the dollar amount of revenue that would be generated from the additional tax of 2 mills. Mayor Jeff Hall is here to make a presentation. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We were here a couple weeks ago, and certainly our engineer, Brian Moorhead, gave, I think, a pretty good presentation of the situation we're in with the streets a little bit. It's surely not unique to Newark. Many cities across the state are experiencing the same. I don't think it's just from this past winter. Obviously, this was a rough winter, but it's from a culmination of that without a good, solid plan. We do have no increases in revenue, so that is very challenging how to address that when there still are increases in costs. We're here tonight to bring a first part of a legislation up for one potential remedy or solution. I was handed a piece of paper this afternoon that I'll share that built in the cost of pothole repair so far this year. And I think that's, when I reach out to the departments, I really give them kudos that we're doing some real cost projections. Kind of want you to put this in perspective of maybe your house you repair, your car. Let's maybe your car. There's a point you just keep repairing and the cost exceeds possibly doing a better fix. If you look out across the city, streets that we've paved in recent years weathered this winter pretty good. They're in pretty good shape. Obviously, ones that had not had a recent coat of pavement, they go exponentially, and that's really where Brian did have a chart that it starts dropping pretty quick, the condition of those streets. Making it simple, when there's a crack or a hole there, water gets in there and it just keeps getting worse as it freezes and thaws. So this is a pothole repair cost from December 2nd of 2013 to April 14th of 2014, so as of today. Cold mix, asphalt, and propane, $33,722. Durapatch material, we have an emulsion that we can put down in the wintertime that's a little bit of a hot mix. That's $19,700. Fuel, $16,300. Man hours, about $7,400. So the total cost so far we've done to repair potholes in the city is above $77,000, $77,376. During that same time frame, 120 days, that boils down to about $645 a day. So, long story, many of those holes have been repaired multiple times. Tomorrow we're going to get freezing again, or close to it. Potentially 1 to 3 inches of snow that won't stick on the ground between tonight and tomorrow, but obviously that's going to penetrate down into those holes. It's going to freeze, it's going to expand and pop them again. So this is what we keep constantly going through. We've had 2 shifts repairing potholes for the last couple months. It's just, they just keep doing it. But to go back and keep repairing it when the right way is to pave it. So there's a couple directions to go. Mr. Moorhead showed we probably need north of $2 million a year to maintain the city streets. It's about $2.2 million. There's a couple different angles you can go to get additional monies, but at the end of the day, you're probably talking a levy, or you're talking an income tax, or you're talking debt. And I don't think we believe in probably using debt to fix streets that are never going to go away. I kind of think of debt more for a project when interest rates are low, building a fire station, building a police station, doing a time frame project, and then you put a bond onto that, roll into a bond, and then it gets paid off. But streets are something that we're going to constantly have to maintain for eternity for the city. So it's our job as administration to try to bring forward some potential solutions. Obviously, whether it was a levy or an income tax, it's going to go to the voters. It's they're the ultimate deciders, but we tend to believe that they need a right to have that option. So that's entirely up to them. But without that option, at the end of the day, the streets are not going to have, they're going to keep deteriorating. So to make it plain and simple. With a levy, which would be on property tax, it's kind of a 2-part legislation. Tonight, the legislation, all it does is ask the auditor from the county to certify how much money 2 mills would bring in. And that's the nuts of it. A time frame, if it's something that this council endorses, anything, whether it be that or an income tax, that it have to go on the ballot, it has to be there the first week of August. So to push this through without putting in emergencies, which we don't believe you should rush. This gives us about maybe a 1-month cushion in there. So it gets to go out to the county. We've got to certify how much they'd collect and come back. Council look at it. Then there'd be a second piece of legislation if they saw fit to eventually put it on the ballot to certify it. So tonight, just asking to have the auditor of the county weigh in on this and see what kind of dollars we're talking about.
Thank you. Does anyone from this committee have any questions or comments that pertains to the resolution before us?
Motion.
Motion on the floor by Marmee. No second? Okay. Real quickly here, Carol, Carol, you can come on up. Do you have any comments or anything, Jeremy, before we go to the floor?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, 1 second. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I just want to say that I think that, first of all, I think that all of us are in this for Newark, and I think we all recognize that there's a street issue, paving issue with our infrastructure. I think the question comes up as to how we solve that. And I, for one, I'm just curious about understanding the differences with the income tax. I mean, I'm concerned about our seniors, to be people on Social Security and retired incomes, and I'm concerned about levying something additional to them. So that's why I guess I would like more clarity on that particular option, the income tax option, versus what's before us tonight. So that's why, I guess just I'm looking out for those folks right now is where my concern is.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, can I say a couple things?
Absolutely.
To address that? First of all, If this was an alternative, we probably need to get it rolling, but this is just the first step of just looking at dollars. It's not saying you want it on the ballot, it's not, that's another piece of legislation. So, you know, and you're making no commitment, this body would make no commitment for something to go on a ballot by passing this legislation tonight. It's just asking the county auditor to certify what 2 mills would collect. So that's just doing investigation to that route. Rough numbers, this is going to probably, average home value is about $98,000 in the city of Newark. We had a rough talk, so you know, rough numbers, but this would precisely draw it down. For about $5.60 a month, raise about $1.6 million. It is short of the $2 million, but there's a limit to how far we can ask the voters to step in, I believe. On an income tax, we kind of want some feel of what direction this body might entertain. We have a 1 3/4% income tax, which being the 20th largest city in Ohio, that's on the lower side. You know, many are 2, 2 1/4, 2.5. So your bigger ones. So we do, if you did a 1/4% increase, you could probably just rough it. We collect about $19 million, divide that by 7, that's about $2.7 million. So, but that's a rough number. We could surely, you can see the business out in the hallway here. It's not the right time to have our tax administrator probably drum those numbers for us right now. Her job is focused. As of last night, they have already entertained in 5 days almost 600 people in this lobby. So that's their job right now, is to stay focused on this year's collections. But it surely would be something to go down that route if you so wanted to know, and ask her the next couple of weeks after the office closes and they start getting into processing returns. So this administration is not closed to any remedy that this body up here might see fit. I'm open to any suggestions from out here, from the citizens, for any solution to this problem at all. You heard what's in the unappropriated balance, pretty low. So, you know, it's part of the solution, conditions from the estate tax going away and some cut downs, rising costs of asphalt, rising costs of fuel, all those things combined together in many directions. But again, you're not committing in this part. If we put this off and might want to go this direction in the future, you're going to probably run into some potential emergency 2-day wage you're going to have to do that I don't think an issue like this should have. It should be open dialogue on this floor, and it should not be rushed in any way. So again, it's not a commitment, but you know, we can provide all those numbers that you want. So.
Mr. Chair, is there a similar certification process for something for an income tax if we were to go down that road?
No, and because we collect our own income tax and it's internal, obviously there's legislation, but we're not reaching out to another body, in this case in the county. That builds in some extra time, and how at times with our Monday nights here, that's where it adds more time into that. So no, that we're not up against the wall, and essentially why, looking at the time frame, is why we would bring something up like this now. Because this we do internally, our own auditor here would, and tax administrator would work on that puzzle.
You good? Carol? Well, come on up.
First of all, to reiterate what the mayor said, I was looking through some old council stuff and I found a newspaper from June 8th, 2008 with the headline, "Newark officials wrangling money for street paving." So this is not a new issue. This is something we've had for a long time, and I think we basically have to do something. I just wanted to clarify, if this is passed tonight, all it does is go to the auditor to see how much money we could get out of it. It doesn't say we're going to do a property tax. That's all it does. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And if we would choose to discuss an income tax, that could also be discussed, and we could figure out how much that might bring in. So all this does is get the ball rolling on doing something as far as streets is concerned, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
make a quick comment to your point, Jeremy. You had mentioned exploring all options, and getting back to what Carol said, that would allow us to do while their potential plans would be formulated. So that would give us a true number of what the auditor says this millage would bring back in terms of money. So when comparisons can be done later, income tax compared to real estate tax. So, is there any other further questions or comments? Lisa, then we'll go to Mark Guthrie. Lisa, if you'd come up to the microphone, appreciate it.
Lisa Best. I seem to remember, and maybe it was discussed here or at some other council meeting in another state or vicinity, that since semis, large capacity vehicles, tend to damage streets more, and the larger businesses, the big box stores that make billions every year, since they're the ones that usually have those big semis that I see going down West Church all the time, would they not pay a little more for damaging our streets instead of all the tax breaks they get? Just a question.
Mark, if you've been asked enough to come up to the podium, appreciate it.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mayor. I've had a number of conversations with Mr. Rhodes, and I think that we're doing the right thing by having this discussion, and I'm grateful that the mayor has taken the lead on it. I personally, as a member of council, I'd like to see us go forward during the next 30 days, get all the information in front of us, but I'm not sure that we have to have this piece of legislation within the next 30 days to know that it's going to generate approximately $1.6 million. I've had a couple communications with Barb Jobs and Mr. Johnson. Both of them have been giving me excellent feedback. Ms. Jobs indicated to me today in an email that a 0.15% income tax would generate approximately the same revenue as 2 mills of property tax at $1.6 million. I think that we could spend the next month absorbing those two issues, still have plenty of time to certify with the county auditor if the property tax is the best option. But I really value the point that Mr. Blake made here tonight, that the income tax applies to earned income. That is going to exempt our seniors who are on Social Security and other sources of retirement that is not considered earned income. It's going to exempt them from the burden of paying an additional tax. And of course that means that the rest of us who pay taxes on other sources are going to have to pick up the load. But I think it's an important comparison that we should make over the next few weeks. But I think that we generally know that we're looking at about $1.6 million with 2 mills. And so I just would hope that maybe we would just go forward. I think this discussion tonight is important, but I would hope that we would go forward looking at those two options, and then the committee either vote out one or the other. Personally, I'd like to see this be a capital improvements levy, but I can see where we did that. If we did that, it might in some way be confusing to the voters. I'd like to see the bulk of it earmarked for streets and part of it earmarked for other needed capital improvements. We got a police communication system, we got police cars, we've got parks that need capital improvements. But I can see where that might cloud the issue. Mr. Rhodes and I have talked about that, and I'm willing to concede that that may be accurate, and that maybe we better just focus this solely on streets, but I would like to see a fair comparison between both those options before council does a roll call vote. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman, do you have another comment?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I agree, and I want to thank the mayor and the members that have spoken. I think that my concern is that when we were talking about a straight street levy, and all of us have won elections. The mayor's won elections, each of us have won elections, and I'm ready to get on board to win an election for Newark. I want to say that publicly to the mayor, Mr. Director Rhodes has spoken about that several times. And so I think people are in this and ready to get geared up for November. But I think that what I would like to see is this comparison, because I think an income tax would be more broad. You would collect off of people that not only are living here, 18 and up, but also people that work here. And so I think there's some pluses and minuses possibly to each. So I hope the discussion would explore both of those, and then we could go down that route. I understand now what this pieces of legislation will do, and so I'll go ahead and I'll second Mr. Marmy's motion to do that, with knowing that we're going to be exploring both in the future here. And so I don't want to be a roadblock or anything, but there is serious concern about putting a property tax on the levy. And right now I'm not feeling comfortable with a property tax. I'd like to understand better the income. But I'll go ahead and second Mr. Marmy's earlier motion.
Okay. Quickly, are you, as I think about how I vote here, are you planning on bringing some sort of idea for an income tax forth in a couple weeks, or where are we at here on this?
Well, if we're going to explore it, I've heard the mayor say he wanted to explore it.
Okay. What I want to do here is if we are doing this, I'm going to encourage anybody in the council members that have an idea for an alternative tax to bring that forth, due to where we're at with time. So I have a motion on the floor by Marmy, a second by Blake. Any further questions?
Yes, I don't think there's a person in this room that knows my position, that does not know my position on taxes and tax increases. However, I am a firm believer in gathering of any kind of data or information to make well-informed, well-educated decisions. So that's why I am supporting this particular resolution, because at least we will have accurate, factual data in front of us regarding whatever. And I'll put it on the record right now. I won't be supporting any kind of tax increase. But I will support gathering this data.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, if I just leave you with two more bits of information. Understand 1.6 is lean for what we need. So Mr. Moorhead's presentation showed north of $2 million. And second of all, the state has been proposing legislation to change local income tax collections. So I just kind of balance those around a little bit in your head. I just want to put in everybody's head while they think for the next week or two a little bit, which is there's been proposals that look like we can get our income tax revenues cut in half. It's up in the air a lot right now over in Columbus of where local municipal income tax will be. So, and I'm not saying no to that. I'm just saying, all. But there's a lot of factors on both these points, and so we'll discuss them in this room.
Mr. Chair.
Jeremy, go ahead.
This is direct. The law director's not here, but Director Rhodes, did you have a conversation with the law director about, from when you and I had talked, he was going to draft a piece of legislation?
He was not in today, so that was unable to occur. But Jeremy, I think motioning this out of committee, getting the factual information from Mike Smith, and then reconvening here in about 5 weeks or so after you have that information back, because it has to go to 2 readings of council before it goes over to Mike. That gives everybody an appropriate amount of time to get the information on a proposed income tax. And then we can have 2 pieces of legislation here that evening, and we can have good dialogue on it. And it also gives all the council members an appropriate amount of time to think about how they really feel and if they have something additional that they'd like to offer. And I'd encourage that debate.
Thank you, sir.
Tim, you can come on off the podium, buddy.
It's going to be a history lesson.
Okay.
Waldron. I don't know how many people has been here, but remember several years ago, I mean, a long time, they did try this before. The voters twice had voted down. They came in with a license plate tax. People voted down 3-1. Then they got another teeny loophole. Well, you guys were allowed to vote on 5-5-5. People are mad about that. Got mad about that. And I remember people used to come in this hall and say, before we would vote for any kind of taxes, property or maintenance, or any kind, fix the streets first. Fix the streets first. And that way people say they will not, I got a friend that people will not vote for any kind of property tax or any kind of sales tax for the streets until something, you got to prove that you got to do something. Oh, I see. I just want to let you know.
Thanks,
people had voted down 3 times.
Do you have anyone else have any further questions, comments regarding this? Okay, have a motion on the floor by Marmee, a second by Blake. All those in favor of moving this on to a full council signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes 3-0. And with that, we'll stand adjourned. Thank you.